In the early 1990s, we realized that computers would get incredibly clever, and this would be a big threat unless we could actually figure out some way of keeping up with the machines. And the obvious way of keeping up with the machines is to be able to make a direct connection between our brains and the machine world. So we thought, well, how can you do that? You can't stick a DIN socket into the back of your head. That isn't going to work very well. But then lots of people started talking about nanotechnology and self-replicating devices, and we thought, well, at some point in the distant future, say 2030, 2040, who knows, you should be able to get an injection into your arm with a few nanotechnology devices which would wander up to your brain and start connecting to every single neuron. And there's enough address space, and even in IP version 6, the internet addressing system, you can address signals to every single neuron individually in your brain. In fact, every neuron in the entire planet, everybody's brain, you can send signals to. So we've got a means, in principle, of connecting electronic devices to every brain cell in your head. Therefore, you can take an exact replica of your brain. So I could have Ian Pearson Mark II living inside my PC in 2030, and I could have all of my thoughts backed up on there, all of my memories backed up. And if I get run down by a bus, it doesn't matter. It's not a career problem because I've got a backup on the network. So, this is a wonderful concept for the future. We call it Soul Catcher, effectively capturing my entire mind and dumping it on a chip, well, notionally a chip, and I would have another existence in cyberspace. Unfortunately, a lot of the media have misunderstood. They thought we were doing this next year, but it's actually sort of 25, 30 years away, unless we get some very big breakthroughs in technology between now and then.
There has been a great misconception of what a cyborg is in popular culture, especially things like the Terminator, which describes the cyborg as a malicious, evil thing. In no ways is meant to be that.
But Hollywood's cyborg bears little resemblance to reality. And far from being a science of the future, cyborg technology is firmly rooted in the here and now. It focuses less on creating realistic robots, more on blurring the boundaries between technology and human beings.
A cyborg basically is a redesign of the human organism to allow it to function better in the environment that organism chooses.
I see very much cyborgs as being an evolutionary step-on from humanity, a technologically evolutionary step-on, as it were.
Some people believe we have always been cyborgs, a growing fusion of technology and humanity. To get to grips with today's use of the word, it helps to go back to its nautical imagery.
The word cybernetic was coined by Norbert Weiner in 1948 to describe the emerging science of control and communication within living and artificial organisms. Weiner coined this term based on the Greek word kubernetes, which refers to a steersman or the helmsman of a ship. This verb also shows up later on as the word govern. Cybernetic systems are systems that are self-governing, self-communicating. They don't involve outside control.
So, does steering a boat make you a cyborg? The body uses the boat to travel on water, and the boat takes the body beyond its natural capabilities. The body communicates with the boat responds. This blurring of boundaries between human and machine means together they are cyborg. Some scientists argue that 21st century cyborg technology is essentially about the way we interact with computers. At the University of Reading, Professor Kevin Warwick uses cybernetics to create interfaces between computers and the human world in an attempt to enhance human communication abilities. His latest experiment involves using the internet to communicate with his wife Irena, using signals generated directly by their nervous systems.
I'll be receiving an implant in my left arm connected onto my nervous system. We're sending signals by radio from my nervous system to the computer and then back again from the computer to my nervous system. And as long as everything goes okay, then
I will have my implant as well.
Exactly the same. And what we're looking to do is to send signals from my nervous system, potentially across the internet, down onto Irena's nervous system.
And back again.
From Irena to me. So we're looking at things like movement. If I move my finger, signal across to Irena's nervous system.
I will move my finger.
And
if I feel pain,
then the signal will go from Irena's arm onto my nervous system. It'd be interesting. Will I feel pain the same way or not? And
maybe not.
Maybe not. And what about excitement?
Oh, it will be interesting. What we feel about each other.
Each other, yes. Or
if I'm excited by somebody else,
surely
you will.
Not. Surely not. And some of those signals would appear on my nervous system.
My feeling is that nothing changed, that I will be still a human being with my human feelings, but Kevin feels that something will change and that we will be the cyborgs. I want to stay human.
I know.
One groundbreaking application of body-machine communication already offers paraplegic people a mobility they thought they'd lost forever.
Julie, did we have a little accident?
Professor Tim Perkins has developed a system which allows communication between the crank mechanism of the tricycle and a set of electrodes which stimulate nerves controlling some of the muscles in the lower limbs. Julie Hill was one of Tim's first guinea pigs. So far, she's the only person in the group to have implanted electrodes linked directly into her nervous system. Signals from the crank pass via a computer-programmed controller into the implant, stimulating her legs to make a circular motion.
There's a line that runs back to this control box. This is her stimulation controller. As I say, she's got an implanted stimulator. So the connection between the outside world and her implant inside is via this RF transdermal transmitter. And she places this on the right side of her chest and just immediately over where the implant is inside. And that takes the signals via some cabling that's implanted round to the small of her back and into the electrodes on her spinal nerve roots. So that's how it works. All we've got to do really is to map out which nerve root corresponds to which set of muscles and measure over which angle of the cranks that the pedal force is actually positive. Because there's no point in doing it the other way around, otherwise the pedals would go backwards. And that wouldn't do, would it?
It's good fun. It's very good for me. It's keeping me healthy and fit. It's keeping my blood pumping. It's keeping my bone density high. It's just, I'm going to have a long, happy, normal life. And it's mainly down to the fact that I can keep as fit and active as I am.
These are autonomous robots. Each one of them's got their own intelligence. And what we've got them doing here is learning firstly how to move around, but also how to flock together, a bit like sheep. So they're learning that it's a good thing if they group together. We're actually using ultrasonic sensors, like a bat senses the world, and infrared to communicate with each other, to tell each other where they are. These robots have the intelligence of perhaps a snail. The best robots in the world at the present time are about the level of a cat's intelligence or a dog. In 10 years' time, we're going to have robots with perhaps the intelligence of humans. We're looking within the next year or so to take information from ultrasonic infrared sensors and feed it directly down onto the human nervous system. it'll probably be another 5, 6, maybe 10 years before we can start taking the intelligence of these robots and maybe the sensing capabilities and feed it directly into the human brain. Well, I think we look 50 years out, we're going to have machines that are far more intelligent than we are as humans. So I don't know that I particularly like that scenario, machines making all the decisions for me. If we look to cyborgs, which is all about enhancing humans to create superhuman beings, then that gives us the possibility of taking some of that machine intelligence and linking it with our own, giving humans cyborg capabilities. That, I think, is a possibility that we're going to see either intelligent machines or cyborgs actually running things on Earth. Humans will be something like a subspecies, a bit like chimpanzees are at the moment. So if you're a human and well, I don't want to be upgraded, well, that's your choice, but you're going to be a chimpanzee in the future.